What did Drew Elliott say to win the US Nationals in CATAN? What psychological tricks did he use? I will break it down. In this video, these timestamps will refer to the timestamps of CATAN's YouTube video, CATAN US Nationals Championship 2024. Link to the video is in the description. First, we are going to look at the things Drew says to appear as the one with the weakest position and the most difficult starting point. And one of the first things he says is, technically, I'll be the only player on 3 numbers, right? Now, being on 3 numbers is known to be risky, as you're very dependent on those exact numbers rolling. And when they do roll, you are more likely to 7 out, as you will receive a lot of cards at the same time. He also points this out later in the game when Sonny asks if anyone is looking for sheep. Drew then says this.
Anyone looking for sheep?
No. Look for cards, just general.
Understood.
Feast or famine, I guess.
Anyone looking for wood?
No.
So again, he's highlighting his difficult position, this time in a funny way. He masters to basically complain about it, but he keeps the mood light at the same time. Now in the placement phase, we hear him say, the way this is playing out, it's getting worse and worse for me. And when he places his second settlement, he says this.
Alright, let's just go for it. Let's just have fun. Let's just have fun.
In this, he basically says, I don't have a strong setup, but let's just try to make it work. And in the first trade, he tries to use this as a benefit for him to get trades. In this example, Joshua wants wood. Sonny and Drew offers the same deal, but Drew says, I think I'm in a little bit of a more difficult spot here. And Drew actually ends up getting that trade with Joshua. Now we're going to look at how Drew is constantly looking for value. In this first example, Drew gets a wheat for ore trade with Sonny and makes sure that he puts the robber on the 6 ore next time to block Joshua and Xiao. And the reason he gets this trade is because he says this.
I prefer the 1 for 1.
Next time you flip a night, you can just put it on the 6, call it a day, and I'll do that trade. I think that's more than fair. This is my only value card right now.
He is wheat. He has an 854. Yeah, he's gonna make.
I have no ore, no brick. I'm also blocked.
Okay.
Here he uses his abundance of wheat as a bargaining chip, framing the trade as advantageous for Sonny, since the wheat is not so accessible for him and the other players. In a later trade, Drew capitalizes on his current position on the board by saying, I need another card or something, especially being solo blocked in this situation. So he's basically eliciting sympathy from the other players. And in the next sequence, we see him use some of the same tricks to get a good trade with Sonny. I'm going to play the clip, so listen closely to the things he says.
Is there any wheat out there?
Yes.
I just don't think you should be deving and have 2 roads for.
What are you trading here? I literally just got my first one in the last 3 orbits.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, you're still in a good spot. I'm willing to do something.
I'm at 3. They're at what, 5?
Want to do a 2 for 2?
I mean, he has so many cards.
I think a 2 for 1 is fair here. Like, I'm literally not even actionable.
So here he leverages 3 key points to strengthen his case in the trade. Number 1, his lack of cards. Number 2, that he is behind. And number 3, that he is not actionable. So Drew just constantly say things that make the other players give him more cards. Meanwhile, before this trade even goes through, the other player claims Sonny is lying about what he's going to do with his hand after the trade. But Drew, on the other hand, says this.
What is it then? Is it road settlement?
No, I'm just buying a dev.
Then
you have a lot of cards for a single dev.
I mean, you have to secure a bunch of times.
I'm not lying. Like
no. I believe you. That's why I'm offering the win.
Suspicious.
I would like to try to keep my trade relationships between you guys, but like I'm literally struggling.
But you have free wheat. Like, do you want?
So the other players accuse Sonny of lying, but Drew says he believes him. This highlights Drew's strategy of using kindness and a sense of togetherness in his approach to the game. By showing solidarity with Sonny, he positions himself as an ally. This psychological tactic is quite interesting, because people are generally more inclined to trade with someone who's friendly. And of course, Drew knows this. And this actually helps Drew to get a 2-for-4 deal with Sonny, which is just great for Drew. However, it gives Sonny a double pop. And that's why Drew just throws in the comment, "You're not gonna block me, right?" This is a way for Drew to basically get a non-block with this deal without initially asking for it as a part of the trade. He knows that Sonny will buy 2 devs and most likely get knights. So this is also another way to get value for his cards, but this time an intangible value. Now, let's look at how Drew incorporates sympathy, friendliness, and a sense of togetherness in his approach to the game. We already saw an example of this, but here comes some more. Let's start with togetherness. He's heard saying, "I do think we can work together here. I'm in the similar boat. And I'm trusting him here." And lastly, "What do you need here, Sonny? We're both at 3 cards, so I can shift some wheat your way if that helps you at all." In these examples, Drew uses inclusive language that fosters a sense of partnership. These shared experiences can make the other players more aligned with Drew and more open to listening to him, as well as trading and dealing with him. Drew actually says something like, "We're in the same boat," 3 times during the game. So let's look at the 2 last times he says this.
I'm pretty stacked. No, what they were.
No, I'm not doing 2 to 1.
No, not 2 to 1. Cards. No, I understand. We're at the same place there. I'll do the wood 4 if you want.
I'm the 3.
Like, it's definitely not Josh.
I'm 7. Transparent 7.
Completely agree.
And the 6 is not even a city.
Josh, we're in the same boat.
You couldn't play 9.
We're in the same boat.
And you.
In this next example, Sonny is placing the robber, and Shah says 2 8s wins for Drew, suggesting that Sonny should block him. Let's see how Drew counters this assertion.
6-6, I do not win.
It doesn't matter.
8 wins.
No,
Yes.
I'm letting you know.
You are on 8 points.
Because he would get 5 cards with an 8.
I'm letting you know that's not the case. I've been honest with you.
I'm the only one
You've
on
been
that
honest
8.
with me.
Here, Drew uses a few psychological tricks to create a sense of trust and togetherness with Xiao. By stating that both have been honest with each other, Drew reinforces a bond of trust. This creates an emotional connection that makes Xiao and also the other players more likely to believe him. In addition, Drew uses a calm and confident tone to sound more trustworthy. This actually leads to Sonny blocking the 2 other players and not Drew. Now let's take a look at how Drew shows sympathy to the other players. In this first example, Sonny plays a Monopoly. Now let's see how Joshua reacts to that.
I don't believe anything he says anymore, so
That's fair.
for all I know, it's another Monopoly in there.
Or the 4.
I'm hitting 6 just because I don't like being lied to.
I mean, he might just flip a knight for the win.
So Joshua says, "I don't believe in anything he says anymore," and blocks Sonny's 6 and says, "It's the 6 because I don't like being lied to." Drew, on the other hand, says this.
I mean,
In fact, I've been stuck.
I did believe you when you said that, what you had. So that's kind of like.
yeah, I had to say it was a point.
I understand. Well, I'd say the mono's worth the point at least. So fair enough.
Yeah.
So Drew says he believed him. He says that he understands that he had to lie and that it was fair to say that the Monopoly was a VP. This shows the different approaches Josh and Drew take. While Joshua reacts with frustration after being lied to, Drew responds with sympathy and understanding. And then we have some examples of Drew being friendly. One time, he interrupts the other guys talking and says, it's Joshua's turn. And he does it again, another time, and says, it's Xiao's turn, so let him play his turn. By saying this, he allows both Joshua and Xiao the space to think and complete their turns without interruption, something they likely appreciate. Another example is how he reacts when his offer is declined by Sonny. Drew says, we can do 1-for-1 if it makes sense, to Sonny. To which Sonny replies, it doesn't, sorry. And Drew answers, no, you don't have to apologize about that. So Drew is generally just being nice. In addition, you generally see Drew smiling a lot, making jokes, and having fun. Drew's behavior diffuses tension and makes himself more likable, possibly making other players less likely to target him or view him as a threat. Lastly, we're going to look at how Drew encourages the other players in different ways. In the end game, there's a chance that Sonny can win the game by taking road, and the board asks Xiao to extend with 1 road. Meanwhile, Xiao really wants to pop and is thinking about what to do. Let's see what he does and what Drew says.
Not in your interest.
The safest bet is to take the roads.
I would like you to extend.
Logically.
Do whatever you think is best, Chef.
By def. Yeah. Could be 9 here.
So Drew says, do whatever you think is best, Xiao, encouraging him to follow his guts. Xiao follows up with buying the dev immediately, which ended up costing him the game actually. It's a very subtle thing, and it's limited how much it affects the game, but Drew is often heard throwing out comments to encourage the other players in a way. Let's look at another example of this. In this example, Xiao is moving the robber and he's deciding between Sonny's 6 or Drew's 4. Let's see how Drew handles the situation.
If you want, but the 6 is just a free card, right? But yeah, block the 4 if you want. Trust yourself.
6 is good though.
It's a lot of cards for him.
Am I the...
Bro, I got solo blocked at 3 points. Don't worry.
I'm just...
So again, we see Drew encouraging other players. He says, block the 4 if you want. Trust yourself. Which is quite interesting, because by saying this, he also communicates that he doesn't really care that much, which hints that the block doesn't really hurt Drew that much, even if it does. As we see, Xiao ends up blocking Sonny. Because when you think about it, you're more inclined to block the guy who says, don't block me, than the guy who basically says, just go ahead and block it, trust yourself. So this is another subtle detail, but it at least shows how Drew uses some psychological tricks to manage these situations.
Now to sum up, we can obviously see that Drew is very good at deciding when and how to express ideas that work to his advantage. Not to mention the way he frames what he's saying and the tone he uses. While he may consciously make these choices at times, it often seems to be instinctive for him. This ability is a valuable skill that he's developed through a lot of experience, and it may have been the key factor that led him to win the game.